briefing for Friday, the 19th of April. I'm Stephen Ridgway. There is a report from, or an advisory from CISA that warns of critical device flaws in Unitronics Vision Series PLC controllers. So it's an ICS device warning. The vulnerability's been allocated a CVE number of 2024 1480 and a severity score, CVSS score of 8.7, so quite critical. However, right now, there is no patch available. So if you are using Unitronics devices, I suggest that you take a quick look at this article from Dark Reading, then look to proactively apply patches and upgrades as they become available. There are also some vulnerabilities in Mitsubishi MELSEC, MELSEC CPUs, which again are in the ICS space. So Mitsubishi is working to provide mitigations and workarounds for these issues, but right now there is no actual fix available. So there are a couple of fairly significant, or a little group of fairly significant vulnerabilities in ICS devices. Definitely an area to keep an eye on if you are using any of those devices within your systems. So the BlackBerry security team have reported that financially motivated group Fin7 has been targeting the IT department of a large US car maker with spear phishing attacks. So, well, if you're not a large US car maker, you may think this doesn't really matter too much. And to some extent, perhaps this particular campaign doesn't. However, I think the reason that it caught my attention is that it is the spear phishing attacks are targeted at the IT department. I think we would all say that mostly we recognize the spear phishing threats to, the likes of the CFO and so on and so forth, senior decision makers within an organization. Increasingly, there is a trend to target people who may have administrative rights within IT departments. And it is fair to say, I think, that people working in tech are not, whilst they're very aware of the concept phishing and spear phishing and so on, phishing and spear phishing, etc., they are not expecting to be the targets of these sorts of attacks. So definitely one to watch out with. This particular group is using PowerShell scripts. A particular PowerShell script known as PowerTrash. It's custom obfuscation, which can be used to make the identifying the actual malware harder to identify. As usual, a very good article from Security Affairs that pulls out a handful of indicators of compromise and gives you a reasonable idea about how this particular attack is undertaken. May not be specifically applicable to your environments, but it is worth understanding the methodologies behind these things. The Kremlin has been backing organizations spreading disinformation ahead of the US elections. So, okay, I'm not in the US, so one could argue that doesn't matter. Well, partly it does matter because we really don't want foreign powers to be interfering in the elections of our Western allies. However, also it is worth bearing in mind that in the UK we also have an election coming up at some point this year, and I would prefer that the citizens of the UK made informed decisions about who to vote for, rather than ill-informed decisions based on misinformation being spread by foreign powers with malintent. So, just as a reminder, this stuff is real. It does go on. Be careful about, especially about forming opinions based on things that you read in social media. This stuff is out there. There are very well funded, very sophisticated groups of people that are looking to influence decisions, whether that's just to cause chaos or whether because they may have specific desire to change the outcome. It doesn't really matter. The fact is that it is increasingly difficult to tell the difference between good information and misinformation, especially when even our own governments are struggling to understand the concept between news and fake news. As we saw during COVID, things which can be true and helpful get labeled as misinformation by the people that really should know better. So there we go. But watch out for this. I would say if you are looking for information about who to vote for, make sure you do some good research. Take time to understand the actual issues being discussed, and don't jump to conclusions based around stuff that you see on social media, because a lot of the things, you only have to drop a pebble in the pond and the ripples go very far, kind of thing, with this stuff. So be aware. It is actually happening. It's the disinformation vendors are out there pushing this stuff at us as we speak. And then finally from me today, there's a very interesting article I came across on HelpNet Security, that is looking at some of the higher level stats regarding information security breaches, and security and so on, globally at the moment. It's an article in HelpNet Security, and it is based on a survey undertaken by Pentera on 450 CISOs, CIOs, and IT security leaders at enterprise organizations. So organizations with more than 1,000 employees in the Americas, EMEA, and APAC. One of the most interesting findings from this is that 51% of enterprises have experienced a breach, despite a large investment in security. 93% of enterprises who admitted to a breach reported unplanned downtime, data exposure, or financial loss as part of this. So basically, we are still in a position where we are investing an enormous amount, and we're not really, frankly, winning the war at the moment with this stuff. We're barely holding our own. A few years ago, I gave a talk around why we appear to be doing so badly in this industry. And I would say we have not greatly improved in that respect. One of the issues that we have, which is something that we in the industry, either on the vendor or on the customer side of these things, need to work at, is actually being able to identify whether the investment in security has made the organization measurably more secure. And one of the issues we've got is that the way we measure security is often through pen tests, because what else are we doing that actually demonstrates whether the systems that we've got can be are compromisable rather than theoretically could be compromised. Pen tests are very much a point in time event, and they're often either far too broad or far too narrow, and they don't tend generally to test the ability of an organisation to detect, contain, eradicate, and recover from an attack. They look to see, is an attack possible, which is a different kind of question. So this week we held an online, or we gave an online talk about measuring ROI in cyber, which we will be, which unfortunately didn't get recorded, but will be re-recorded and will be put up on the website for you to have a look at. But it does talk about some of the things you can do to actually demonstrate that if you are investing company money in security activities, how can you demonstrate, especially demonstrate to people outside of the tech or cyber arena in the organization, that that money has been well spent and that the organization is actually now more secure than it was before that money was invested. There are various things you can do. But if it is down to understanding the efficacy as well as the efficiency of your investments and your cyber program. So yeah, I reckon it's worth taking having a read of this particular article, which will link to the briefing, and give you something to think about over the weekend. And obviously, if you want to discuss any of that with us, do so. That is enough for me for both today and for this week. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll speak to you all again on Monday morning.